to talk a little bit about the climbing areas in the Crowsnest Pass. I'm not going to go into detail in various routes. The last few years, the main areas, Emerald Lake and then sort of Bluff Mountain, have been put up, and I haven't gone up any of those routes, so I can't say too much about them. So I'll just give you an overview about the area, just because there's not much information on technical rock climbing. Everybody probably knows about the big popular bouldering area around Frank. That's world class. There is the little top rope rock that you can get up to if the bolts aren't stolen by locals here at the House Rock. But most people are probably going to head into the Century Mountain area. That's gotten very popular due to Morgan Fines, Mark Gurkic, and others. So there's been lots of route development up here. Bolted routes of a moderate standard, so you're looking sort of 5/8s to the 5/11s, I believe, are up in there, but sort of lower angle. And then if you want harder climbs, I think Verratti, can't remember first names, has put up a whole bunch of stuff up here at Bluff Mountain or the east face of Goat. And both this area and the Emerald Lake climbs are up on the Alpine Club of Canada. There should be detailed topos that explain everything up there for those big areas. But for the other stuff, the Blairmore Riverside Crag, the rock climbs weirdly for most of the routes. So Bruno Engler had done these routes back in the 1930s, basically maybe with a pin or no gear. Hadn't done like obviously the 510s that were beyond his standard for sure. But Patio Lantern and the first climb you get to were obviously test pieces that he had said maybe weren't the wisest to have climbed, at least those awkward test pieces. And then Ian Grote in the late 80s and early 90s, before he was a rock guide, had done a lot of these routes on trad gear, and I think had spent a lot of time figuring out how to do them that way with pins and other micronuts and sliders and stuff, ball sliders. So then these got retro bolted, and the retro bolting, climb them, you can figure out if the bolting makes sense for where the clips and stuff are. When you're first bolting routes, it's hard to get them figured out. So generations of climbing. So anyways, the Blairmore Riverside is a reasonable place to go if you're in specific areas. These climbs, again, you probably won't like. They'll be hard for the grades, and I think maybe the grades turn some of the gym climbers off. They're looking for sort of ego-affirming experiences. So they are what they are. And that is the Blairmore Riverside Crag. Easy access, sharp rock, awkward climbing, weird bolting. Okay. The other place that people are probably going to go is the Emerald Lake. So let me describe that. Morgan Fines and Mark Gurkic did tons of work. Now the odd thing here you have to remember is this rock, back when I was thinking of how do we get up to this alcove and get roots up through here, it's highly sulfated, and that means you have to know your rock quality to know what's good and what's not. And I remember banging it with a hammer and digging through a couple inches of rock and never still finding a good bolt placement for things. So obviously Morgan Fines has done tons more cleaning than I do. I was never much of a route cleaner. Put it up and go. Other people spend hours and days cleaning stuff. So kudos to those folk. But just do be aware if you're trusting single anchors. Now, one of the issues you face here as you're going through these climbs is there's short bits of climbing, probably protected with one, maybe two bolts. Like I said, I haven't done all of them, so I can't comment. But then if a bolt blows or you're going to break your ankles, what's going to happen as you're falling on these short ledges? So you're not looking at anything death-defying with these if an anchor blows, but it can happen. And but lots of long multi-pitch routes, which are great to see in the area, and especially well protected, well cleaned. Morgan does a phenomenal job of getting those routes up there, and so do all the other people that have done those. So real addition to southern Alberta. I think this is the biggest addition we've seen since for a long time, that and Thunder Mountain. And kudos to them for finally busting up to the amphitheater, which is that steep overhanging place that generations of climbers have been looking for. So lots of routes going up here, lots of potentials. All these are bolt protected with only that sort of one gear crack. So a very popular place for sport climbers. And again, if I remember, the climbs are probably in the 5/8 to 5/11 grades, and they aren't undergraded, unlike Waterton. So these will probably be softer grades. Now, as we get over to back to the Bluff Mountain, or east side of Goat Mountain, as the locals call that, you've got some areas. So Verratti, and I can't remember first names, has looks like he's done a ton of work putting up a lot of hard routes. There's some big roofs. This looks like tough terrain. So just phenomenal job of climbing up in here by the guys. And Morgan's done a bunch up there too. So there's this area with lots of climbs that you can see, and Topo's on the Alpine Club of Canada, the Lethbridge sections area. There's the Goat Herder Saloon and the Shooting Star section. Chris Morris, back would have been sort of mid 2000s, put up 9 bolted climbs with some climbers up in here. Aaron was doing stuff at that day. Aaron Hempel and Rob King was probably up here doing stuff too. I have no idea where those are. Now, Chris had said hadn't publicized them too much because the rockfall danger was just too bad. They had some close calls and just couldn't justify heading up there. So I have no idea if that's in the same area here. This band looks different to me than sort of the brown stuff, but a lot of the kitty litter above there, the little boulder, marble-sized boulders that come down just by your ropes. So who knows what's going on up here, and just judge the rock quality for yourself and safety for yourself. And that, I think, basically does it. The only other comments, Wedge. This was an old Eric Hoogstraten area that had never gotten publicized and encountered one day, and never wondered if that was an old climb lost from the 1980s or something. Wasn't. So lots of sort of interesting flamey history up here. So that has an area that has like, a half dozen climbs. You can look in the guidebook. Decent climbs. Interesting, unusual rock texture. So if you're looking for new places to explore, try that. No more area for route developments. And then there's the Knob Hill or the Bible Camp climbs. So you park at the big massive pull-out, and then the slabs are over to the right. There's apparently 2 roadside climbs that the Medicine Hat Climbing Club and Ralph Ekman, who's done a ton of stuff here and especially up in the Gap, put up. That was their spot for a while. Here's the main climbs at the slabs, or Knob Hill, and lots of layers of history here too, generations of climbing that has been gone on. There's also the very short climbs over to the right that the Bible Camp used to top rope on as well, and then one more climb over to the left. These are sort of in your 5-6, 5-8 area, with the 5-10 here, then your 5-4 is around the corner. The other area not too many people know about is the Gargoyle. Now this is a great way to get up to this peak up there, but it goes through a nice cool slot canyon that not many people do. The access is a bit complicated because the end of the road you aren't allowed to park on private land, so you somehow have to park along the side of the road, and then you're never quite certain if you're allowed to walk there or not. The Nature Conservancy has bought this land, so you can also access it from over here on the other side of Island Lake. I think the road goes up around. So I can't give you any answers there for what's happening, but I can just say the area in this canyon is great. This is where the Bible campers used to go top rope off of. So Ralph Ekman and the Medicine Hat Club has put a bunch of climbs up there, and I believe these would be in the sort of 5-8, 5-9 area. Again, check the Word document or text version of the guidebook for more information on that. And that pretty much does it. The only other comment I would say is down here is Star Creek Falls. Probably not a good place to put up any routes, even though the rock may look tempting. Just so much visitation, and it's such a pretty spot. We've got other areas to go rock climbing on, so there's no use risking the reputation of climbing in southern Alberta in its entirety to put up some routes. McGilvery Creek was another spot that had been looked at for like an Ouray ice development. I think Aaron Hempel had done some work up there. And there were some top rope routes, but I don't think anything was ever really set. And that is the climbing in the Crowsnest Pass as far as I am aware.